I have two kids, a 5-year-old and 7-year-old. So roughly just over 7 years ago, I remember driving down the freeway, and my wife, we were looking for a pediatrician. Now, I'm sure my wife told me how she got these names, but it went in one ear and out the other. I'm guilty of that. But I hear her Googling these folks and said something along the lines of, ew, we're not taking our newborn baby to this guy. Look at his reviews, and another one, oh, we're not calling this guy. He doesn't even have a website. Those could have been, I'm here in Orange County, California. Those could have been the best pediatricians in Southern California, for all I know, but she just eliminated them based on what she saw on her phone off of a simple Google search. And where we ended up going is somebody who had great reviews and had, a good looking website, and that we could easily communicate with them.
Have you ever wondered how some law firms seem to be omnipresent online, ranking high on search engines, and always popping up at the right place at the right time? Well, today's your chance to unlock the mystery of becoming findable online. Welcome. I'm your host, Darren Wurz, financial planner, guide, trusted confidant, and hey, consider me your friend as we navigate the financial landscape together. You're listening to The Lawyer Millionaire, the show that empowers lawyers and law firm owners to achieve more visibility, more growth, more success, and yes, more financial prosperity. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce our distinguished guest, Travis Hoechlin. He's not only the CEO of Rise Up Media, but also a pioneer in crafting effective digital strategies for professionals, chiefly law firms. Travis, it's a pleasure to have you here on the show today.
Darren, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Me too. So I understand you work exclusively with law firms, and that's very exciting. I'm sure that you have learned a lot in your journey. Let's start with your story. Could you share a bit about your background and how you ventured into digital strategies for law firms?
Yeah, I've always been in sales. I've sold probably everything under the sun since getting out of college. Once the dream of being a professional baseball player, like every kid out there, went away, I got into sales and really dug that. I was in the mortgage industry for a long period of time, and like a lot of folks, when the big crash happened in 2008, kind of had to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up, and stumbled in just by chance. A friend introduced me to a company that did lawyer marketing, and it was a big Fortune 500 company, and I did that for about 8.5 years, and then always had that. Owned a mortgage company back in the day, so always had that entrepreneurial itch to scratch again. And it's something that my business partner and co-founder talked about for a long time. And about 5 years ago, finally got the courage to make the jump again and hang our own shingle. And like a lot of entrepreneurs, we wish we would have done it 5 years earlier, certainly. But now we, have a growing agency. We work with about 350 law firms all across the U.S. Would like to double it this year, and that's the goal. And it's been a fun ride. Great group of folks to work with and help them scale their business, and so it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, very, very cool. How would you say, marketing and digital presence for law firms, how is it different from other types of businesses?
Oh gosh, I would say what I like best about it is we get to help people grow their business. Most of our clientele are solo practitioners, up to about 10 attorneys, and I would say probably 80% of them are solo practitioners. So they run into a place where, first of all, they don't know anything about this line of work, and so they need help. And there's nothing better than getting a text message from one of your clients that just go that, especially ones that hadn't had success marketing before, and you get a text message some morning, and they say, "I just had the best month of my career. Thank you so much." You know what I mean? Like, that's what drives us. That's what gets us out of bed every day. We like to think that we kind of give folks the white glove treatment and really help them roll up our sleeves and become a valued partner. Not just hopefully we're not looked at as a vendor. So I would say that's, from my experience, that's the difference, is that we make a difference in their business, and we can and we can see that on a daily and monthly basis, no question.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, let's talk about, what's new in 2024 and how lawyers can become findable online. Could you tell us about, first of all, why it's important to have that online visibility, and what are some of the new things that are helping lawyers get found?
Yeah, I think the first thing is why you want visibility online is that's the face of your business these days, right? It used to be the yellow pages or whatever it may be, but you know, in today's world, most attorneys will tell me I get most of my business or my best business from referrals. And what I tell people all the time is like, listen, referrals comes in twos and threes. If I had a dollar for every time some attorney told me that, I wouldn't have to work anymore, right? And I do the same thing. I've been my friends and family know me as the guy who knows all the attorneys, right? Because I've done this for 15 years. So
Yeah.
any of my circle of influence, they get a divorce or get arrested or get in a car accident or need a contract or whatever they need, I'm always the call. And I usually give two or three names. They need an estate plan, I give two or three names and go, hey, go call these three folks. They'll all take really good care of you, they're good at what they do. And that because if someone doesn't call back, then they're not calling back to me. So it's so important to have that online presence so the referrals can find you, right? Because you got to win that beauty contest. They're getting two or three names. They're asking their friends or family or whatever they're doing, and they're Googling you and making the judgment call whether to call that office or not based on right, wrong, or indifferent. They're a lot of times making that call based on what they see online, whether it's what your website looks like, what your reviews look like. I preach this all the time. Like, take care of your backyard first. We'll talk about getting strangers and getting visibility of people who don't know you, but take care. Priority number one, and when we bring on a client, is how do we convert more of the folks that are already trying to find you, right? And I'll give you a quick story. I preach this all the time, and we were talking before we hit record that I have two kids, a 5-year-old and 7-year-old. So roughly just over 7 years ago, I remember driving down the freeway, and my wife, we were looking for a pediatrician. Now, I'm sure my wife told me how she got these names, but it went in one ear and out the other. I'm guilty of that. But I hear her Googling these folks and said something along the lines of, ew, we're not taking our newborn baby to this guy. Look at his reviews, and another one, oh, we're not calling this guy. He doesn't even have a website. Those could have been, I'm here in Orange County, California. Those could have been the best pediatricians in Southern California, for all I know, but she just eliminated them based on what she saw on her phone off of a simple Google search. And where we ended up going is somebody who had great reviews and had, a good looking website, and that we could easily communicate with them and all that. So that's number one. I think making sure your presence is up to par, and then that filters into social media and so forth, because people look at that as well. So make sure your social proof is up to par. And then as far as what's new in 2024, I would say, let me take it back 2 years, like the last couple years. Google has now come out with a pay-per-call program, not to be confused with, I'm sure a lot of your listeners are aware of pay-per-click or Google AdWords, where you pay every time someone clicks your ad. Those work too as well. We do those. But local service ads are relatively new, especially in a lot of the smaller markets where it hasn't caught on yet, where I would go out on the limb of saying, if you don't have your if you're looking for more business and you don't at least have a line in the water with the local service ads, you're missing the boat, right? It'll at some point get saturated and very competitive and all, and it already is in some markets for some practice areas. But it allows you to only pay after your phone rings, so you don't pay until your phone rings, and then you can dispute much of the garbage that comes through, whether it's wrong geography or wrong practice area or salespeople or any of that. Google allows you to dispute those calls and get your money back, right? And anyway, that has been some of the best marketing I've seen in quite some time. It's just been a game changer for many of our clients, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So Google is still very important. You want to have that the Google My Business page set up in your listing. what are some, like, we have the website, we've got the Google My Business. What are some other key components that we need to think about?
So Google My Business, not to be confused. So your local service, like when you do, let me go back to the local service ad just so your
Okay.
listeners understand. When you type in Toledo, Ohio personal injury attorney,
Mhm.
right? The things that you see at the top, you'll see two faces. In some markets, you'll see three. If you're on your phone, you see two. But if you're on a desktop, you see two or three. Google's still trying to figure out, test things, what's working best, probably what makes them the most money. But they're the faces that show up at the very top, right? It used to
Ah.
be pay-per-click ads that show up at the top, right? Um, and they do it in your industry as well, financial planning. I
Mm.
certainly do look into those for sure, but it's the faces that show up at the top. And it runs off of your Google My Business page, which is when you Google your name, that the thing on the right-hand side that has a picture, probably your picture and a map and your reviews and things of that nature. But those are the local service ads.
Okay.
The and your question, I'm sorry, your question
Yeah,
was.
about the other key components we need to think about, the Google My Business and website, and what are some other ones we need to think
Yeah.
about?
So your website, certainly, your Google My Business page, make sure you claim that because that's how people are going to find you and call you when they're looking you up by name, right? Certainly having your social media in order, at least having a presence. I like to say that, social media is kind of what websites were 15 years ago, right? Where
Mm.
if you didn't have a website, people thought you were working out of your underwear in your garage. You know what I mean? Even though like post-COVID here, I don't, and
Yeah,
maybe
now,
that,
right.
that might be acceptable now. I don't know. But I digress. But social media is kind of that way. People are just checking out to
Yeah.
see that you have a presence there, to see to kind of validate you. So at the very least, having a presence where you're posting, not to even get into ads and how to market and all that stuff, but just having a presence, I think is super, super important. And then some of the things I would tell you is, what I tell our clients all the time is, and this is not something that we necessarily do, but we need to have happen for our clients. Once, make sure your phone is being answered, right?
Mm. Yeah.
I would say attorneys across the board probably answer their phone about 70% of the time, right? And I'll give you a story about that. My dad is a doctor by trade, but his hobby is bird watching, and he went to he lives in Southern California. He went on vacation to Colorado, and he was out taking pictures of birds and got rear-ended on by a commercial truck.
Oh
Um,
no.
I didn't have at the time, this was 10, 12 years ago. I didn't have any contacts in Colorado at the time. Now I do, but
Mm.
and I tell him who to call. But at that time, I had to he calls me and goes, "Hey, I know you know attorneys, you know somebody in Colorado. My back is all banged up, not catastrophic, but banged up."
Hmm.
And I said, "You know what? Yeah, let me make a call." I got four names from colleagues of mine that had some contacts there. I personally made four phone calls to these guys, and I got four voicemails, right?
Mm.
Not one of them called me back within 48 hours. I finally had to text one of my buddies, go, "Hey, tell your guy, your client that call me back, type of
Yeah.
thing." He finally called me back, but that is so common, right?
Yeah.
That in the industry. So I tell people you'll spend half the money on marketing and get twice the result if you'll just make sure you answer the phone. And your
Yeah.
listeners are probably saying, no one ever thinks they have this issue. Not one attorney over 15 years that I've started working with go, you know what? I'm just absolutely garbage at answering the phone. No one's ever told me that. So it's a very eye-opening experience when you record all the calls and you show people
Hmm.
that, hey, look, here's your last 60 calls. I was just with a client. She goes, "It's not working." I go, "Let me listen to all your calls." And long story longer, I came back to her. I go, "Listen, I got since the first of the year, what are we on the 24th or 25th of January as we record here?" I look back the last, she does family law. I said, the last 25 days, 24 days, we've brought you 67 phone calls. 27 of them went to voicemail. She had no clue.
Wow.
Had no clue. So make sure you're answering your phone because as an entrepreneur, like it's such a small fix. There's answering services out there for a few $100s that you could
Right.
fix this issue. And because as soon as it's like, I think it's like 73, I just read an article, like 73% of potential clients will hire the first attorney they talk to.
Hmm.
So if you can make that happen, you're going to be much more successful. And then, and
Yeah.
also some other things is, especially for the younger generation, Gen X and, the millennials, they much rather text or email. So
Yeah.
make sure on your website that you have those features on there, because the layperson doesn't realize how it works, right? They don't realize if you're a personal injury attorney more times than not. I know it's on all your ads that, we don't get paid unless you win or whatever. That doesn't resonate with a lot of people. They don't understand how that works. They think it's like a taxi cab. As soon as you pick up the phone, the meter starts, type of thing. So
Oh,
they
okay.
much rather send a text or an email to get some information before they call. So make sure you meet your clients where they're at and where they're comfortable and how they want to communicate with you. So make sure you're answering the phone. Make sure you're adding chat or text to your website, so you convert more of those folks that are already that you're either already trying to find you, or that you've paid good money to get to call your firm, and then because it's too easy to hit the back button and call the next person on the list, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
make sure you're handling those things. That's my tip
That's
of the day.
great. Yeah, no, that's really, really good advice. I have had that experience. I think maybe probably a lot of people have had that experience. Um, it's so important to have an intake team that can handle those. Because if you're an attorney, you're busy. You can't be answering the phone all day long. You're probably, working on client cases, and you have other stuff that's demanding your attention. So you need to have somebody to do that. And you're right, there are services that will do that for you, or you can have an intake team that's trained and able to do that. But we live in such a quick, small attention span
Fast
society
food,
today.
fast food society, right? Like, if
Yeah.
right now, if we order something on Amazon, you look at it, you're like, oh, we're recording here on a Friday, and if I looked at something once, oh, it's not going to be here till Monday. I'm not ordering it.
Yep.
Like, think of how far we've come. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
back in the day when I'm 48 years old, when I grew up, you were lucky if you saw something within a few weeks. You know what I mean? Now
Yeah.
if it doesn't happen right this second, to your point,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
agree.
I know if I'm searching for something and I go to a website and it takes longer than like 5 seconds to load, I'm back to Google. I'm on to the next one.
100%. Or
Yeah.
if you have to hunt for a phone number. I was just on the phone with
Yeah.
somebody, and with a potential new client, and I go, "Do you realize your phone number is not on your website?" And they
Oh
go,
no.
"Oh, I had no idea." I'm like, "And neither is your address." I mean, how do I think? I'm gonna think this through. How would somebody get a hold of you if they wanted to? You know what I mean? Like, you're asking somebody to do a lot of work just to make it easy. Make it easy for them.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned texting. That's very interesting. I'm sure there are services that you can use that will, you can have a number that they will text to, and you can have people respond. I think a lot of people would definitely be interested in that approach. Um, yeah. Tell us a little
You
bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we'll outsource to different places, but even like, Google's just implemented that on the local service ads because they
Mhm.
want connect more people, obviously, because they get paid when that happens. Yeah, there's services out there that you can add, and whether it's them answering or the calls, and don't be a lot of attorneys go, well, I'm scared to do that, because they're not answering legal questions. That's not what that's designed for. There are services out there that can do a full intake, and you're going to pay a lot of money to do so. And that option is there too. But I tell people, let's crawl before we run here. Just get somebody to take name, contact information, phone number, email, what
Yeah.
the issue is, and then what they'll do, whether it's text or chat, both will do. A lot of these have both. A lot of these services, Juvo Leads is a really good one. Um, that that they'll then send you via text or email the chat transcript or the intake information. And when you're a solo, right, you're in court, you're on the phone, you're doing these everything, you can quickly look at that email or text and go, is this somebody, if it's catastrophic big rig, a case, then you probably want to get back to them like within minutes, if not seconds, right? If it's something that's not in your wheelhouse, you still want to get back to them, but it's not urgent. You can get back to them later, and then make sure, it's doing putting goodwill out there to at least answering questions or pointing people in the right direction, things of that nature. But you definitely want to have those services are relatively inexpensive, and it'll make you a bunch of money, especially when you bounce it against like what your retainer or that case is worth. Spending a few $100 to get, a $5,000 retainer if you're a family law or criminal
Yeah.
defense attorney is well worth the money, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's such a challenge to stand out. And this could be one simple way to do it, simply having some of these systems in place that make it easier for people to get in touch with you or in touch with somebody and at least kind of start that conversation before they move to the next name on the list.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It used to
um,
be, yeah.
hmm?
No, go
what
ahead.
what are some other ways that law firms can stand out because it is a competitive landscape?
Yeah.
How do we, if we're in a big city where there's lots of other attorneys doing the same thing, how do you set yourself apart?
I think, well, when it comes to the website, I think there's no and now listen, different firms are trying to have a different image, certainly. But when if you're doing personal injury or criminal law or immigration or family law, any of these things where you're working with the client one-on-one. Now, if you're one of these national firms with 1,500 lawyers or whatever, then the strategy may be a little bit different. But I think certainly having your picture on the website, right?
Hmm.
Because it humanizes you, right? And maybe even showing pictures of your family or, whatever. Like I've seen people put their dog on there and things of that nature. I think that's, if you're in a local market, it humanizes you for sure. So make sure and spend the extra couple bucks to get it done well. You know what I mean? Like we get pictures sent over and it's from their Nokia 1995 phone or
Oh
something.
no.
You're like, maybe not. Okay, we'll use stock photos then, but no, I'm all kidding aside. Like a lot of the camera phones now are actually pretty darn good, but spend a couple bucks to get it done well, right? Because that may be the difference in a huge case coming your way or not, because people are judging you that way.
Hmm.
I think another thing, especially in today's world, video, right? We're more apt to listen to a 30-second, 90-second video than reading 15 pages of content, certainly.
Hmm.
And once again, it humanizes you. And, the likelihood of someone's watched your video and you've answered their questions, and then they pick up the phone to call, like the chances are really, really good if you answer the phone that they're going to hire you, right? They've already made that
Yeah.
judgment one way or another that they're going to pick up the phone. So as long as you don't say something silly or offend them, my guess is they're signing up for you if they've watched your video. So those are a couple things certainly that take some extra time, and having that video on social and having it on these different places that it's your face to your customer base. So make sure you're doing that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's an interesting question I thought of. Um, should I, on my website, on my web pages, do should I have long content or short content? What can you give us some advice there? Like, do I need lots and lots of words to be more effective in getting found, or is it better to be crisp and clear and maybe a little shorter?
Here's a lawyer answer and an agency answer. It depends. No, right?
Okay.
No. In all seriousness, we're speaking. I tell everybody when on your website, we're speaking to two audiences, right? We're speaking to Google. There's
Oh,
those
there
balloons.
go the balloons.
We just talked about this. I don't know what I did anyway. There's balloons. um, um, so you're speaking to two audiences. You're speaking to Google, which is important because if they don't know what you do and you're not optimizing the site the right way, you're never going to show up on the first page. So content is king. They want to see lengthy content. They're trying to
Hmm.
serve up, using their words, they're trying to serve up the most authoritative website out there, right? Based on
Okay.
a certain. So one of the things that we do before we write any content, we have some proprietary software where if we're trying to show up for, Cincinnati personal injury attorney, what we're doing is we're putting that keyword into some software, and then we're putting up the five competitors in that market that are showing up on page one, and it shows us like 122 different data points. One of them almost most importantly is what's the word count on that page? So if all your competitors have 5,000 words for car accident, Cincinnati car accident attorney, then you need at least 5,000 words as a starting point. Now there's whole kinds of other things that go into it. And so that's audience number one. Audience number two is your potential client. And attorneys try to make their website sound like a legal book. And the average internet reader reads at a 7th, 8th grade level. So you end up speaking right over their head. So in that content, you need snippets or small points that are going to convert those website visitors into clients. So you have to kind of marry the two, not kind of, you have to marry the two. Yeah. And make sure that not only are you showing up, but you're converting. Because most potential new clients aren't reading a website like they do a book, right? From top to bottom, left to right, and from page 1 to the end. That's not how they're doing it. They're skimmers, right?
Okay.
So be very clear what you do. I say this everywhere I go. It's like, I can't tell you how many times I'm preparing for a potential new client, our potential new client, and I'm reading their website, and I get on and I finally have to go, okay, I'm not clear what you do. Are you on the defense side? Are you on the defense side? Are you on the plaintiff side? Like, what are you trying to be clever or whatever they're trying to do? Like, make it very clear what you do. Most, I know it differs in a lot of markets, smaller markets. Attorneys do a lot of different things, a lot of different practice areas. But in a lot of the bigger markets, you're very, very special. They're very, very specialized in what they do. So make sure they understand. The layperson doesn't understand that. I didn't before I got into this business a long time ago. And to your listeners out there, think of like all your friends and family. You've told them 1,000 times what kind of law you practice. You know, you tell them that you do mergers and acquisitions, but yet they all still call you when they get a DUI or need an estate plan or want to get a divorce. And you're like, dude, I don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, so make sure it's clear what you do. So that way you're converting at a high level.
That's great. Yeah, good advice. And when you're thinking about that language on your website, here's another thing I'm curious about. Should I lead with, who I am and my accomplishments? Are people drawn to that? Does that help convert, or should it be something different? How should the language be set up, so to speak?
Awesome question. Amazing question. So a lot of attorneys, they want to beat their chest and tell everybody how great they are. I understand. We all trying to win that business. We think we're going to impress them, which there is a time and place for that on your website. Here's our results and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is we're all innately selfish to some degree, right? And we're coming to a website to figure out how you can help me. So how can you solve my problem? I would go at it from that vantage point, and then you can add all the awards and verdicts and great stuff that you did and all that. There's a time to put attorney profile, maybe down the page on the homepage. Certainly, social proof is certainly important. All those things, but answer their question. How can you help them? Because right. Typically, when you're hiring a lawyer, there's a few exceptions, but typically you're in a bad spot, right? You just got served papers from your spouse. You just got arrested for DUI. You just got in a car accident. You're splitting up with your partner. You're getting deported, whatever it may be. Like, all right, you're scared and you have issues and you're trying to solve those issues. So come at it from that angle. You're going to convert at a much higher level. So it doesn't, because what they're seeing, believe it or not, is they're seeing you being self-serving. Right? I'm great. I won this. I did this. I'm the best. Or, and what we call me monster. Like, don't be a me monster. Like solve their issue. How can you help them? How can you make them, your potential client, feel more comfortable? And you're going to walk away. You're going to be much more successful in your endeavors for sure.
Yeah, good, interesting perspective there. And I think that's great advice. I think that from my own perspective as a consumer, I want to know, I mean, your accomplishments are great, but if you could be the most accomplished person in the world, but if I hire you and I feel like I'm not on your radar and I'm not a priority to you, then it's not going to matter. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so big.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about is the future of digital marketing. We have AI coming into the picture and lots of changes. Where do you see things kind of going from here?
That's another great question. I actually just this fall, there's this group of all the gurus in the SEO world. Believe it or not, we have a conference in Chiang Mai, Thailand, of all places.
Oh, wow.
So we went over there because these are questions that we want to make sure we're on top of for our clients as well. And I do think AI is going to be a big part of it moving forward. It's not there yet. Like the question we get a lot is, okay, can I just do I need you? Because we write all the content for our clients, right? Do I need to pay you to write content? Can I just go to Chat GDP and say, write me a Cleveland, Ohio divorce lawyer page or whatever? And the software we put in and all the things that you need to do from an SEO perspective, you need to put all those prompts into Chat GDP, and then maybe you have right?
Hmm.
Something there. And I'm sure that's coming, right? I'm sure that's coming down the pipe. It's not there yet, but
Yeah.
listen, we spend a lot of money and resources and employees doing that. And I'm not trying to get rid of my writers, my staff writers by any stretch, but it's just not there yet. But I do think that's coming, where it'll make things a lot easier. And then there's going to be a differentiate. If something else is going to be different, because right now the content is king. If you have 100 pages on divorce law and I have two, I'm oversimplifying here, and
Yeah.
everything else being equal, you win, right? There's no doubt about it. Backlinks are huge. Linking other reputable sites, linking to you. Those are probably going to be some of the big differentiators as time goes on, because if everybody the right now the playing field isn't equal on everyone's site from a content perspective. If AI takes over, maybe there's a place in the future where the playing field is everyone has a gazillion pages of content, so it's all equal.
Hmm.
And then there's going to be something else. But the reality is I mean, look at Google. They're trying to figure it out as well, right? And they're still and at the same time still trying to monetize their business. So the ads and everything that they do to monetize their business is still prominent. So,
Hmm.
well, it'll be interesting as it moves forward, certainly.
Yeah, yeah. So I can't just go to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, create me an SEO optimized web page," and call it a day, huh?
No, there's nobody out there that would want that to happen more than me. That would allow me to do a lot more work at a lot less price for our clients, certainly, because that part is easy. Or I don't even have to worry about that part. I have other things to worry about because there's the stuff, you know. Um, we do a lot of different things. I tell people we do 5 things real quick. We make custom websites, so whatever they can dream up, we can make. We do all the SEO work to make those websites show up, and we
Mhm.
do pay-per-click. We manage pay-per-click campaigns. We manage the local service ads campaigns, and we do social media. If content, a lot of our time and resources go into content, and if that could solve itself with ChatGPT, no one would be more pumped about that than me, no question.
Yeah.
But it's just not there yet. I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming,
Hmm.
but just not quite yet. You can't go there. You can do it, and it
You can
spits out
try.
something. And I just heard somebody telling me that there's some lawyer out there that got themselves in a big pickle
Oh
because
no.
he put that in and got disbarred because he just took Chat GDP content and threw it up on his website and got in trouble. I don't take that with a grain of salt. I just heard that recently.
Oh
Well, there you
wow.
go. There's the answer to that question.
Yeah, yeah. Very interesting. Well, good stuff. Yeah, and some potential tools coming. And that's kind of the way I think of AI. It's a perhaps a great tool to use, but you still need it still needs refinement and it still needs some human involvement, I think, to really make it work well. So maybe a tool that you'll end up using more and more for your clients as it becomes more developed and something that's easier to use.
Absolutely. And content still needs to be unique. If you have duplicate content,
Yeah.
Google looks frowns upon that. So everyone's going in with the same prompt to chat GDP and getting the same piece of content. You're going to sink your ship,
Yeah.
like people go, oh, are you using the same content for, for everybody? I'm like, we would sink all the ships if we do that. So we have to make sure each piece of content that we put out there is completely unique from somebody else. And it's certainly a lot of work to make sure, you can only talk about a child custody page in Cleveland so many different ways, you know what I mean?
Right,
So
right.
but anyway, it's coming, but not yet. Not yet.
Very cool. Well, Travis, our time has just flown by here. It's been great chatting with you, and you've given us some great things to think about. So I really appreciate it. I have two quick questions before we wrap up here.
Yep.
The first one, kind of a personal question. I want to ask you, because you're an entrepreneur, and
Yeah.
much like many of our law firm owner listeners, what is your millionaire mission? And what is the big driving force behind your success?
We want to become and contain the quality that we're putting out right now. We want to become the largest legal marketing agency out there in the country. And if we can do that and we can help these folks scale their businesses, like everything we do is month to month. So our feet are held to the fire every single month. All of our clients can leave tomorrow and if we're not producing. So I like to think that says a lot about our services. And I want to help these folks continue to grow. And all the other things that we do as far as bringing clicks and calls and impressions, all that is all good stuff. But what's most important is putting money in their pocket. And so helping these law firms and lawyers grow and see a return on their investment. Make sure they're seeing a 5-to-1 return on their money and providing them the tools to see that and realize that.
Very good. Very good. And Travis, if people want to learn more about what you do and maybe get in touch with you, where can they go?
Yeah, you can go to our website, riseupmedia.com. That's RIZ as in zebra, UPMEDIA.com, or you can email me directly at travis@riseupmedia.com. Would love to help, even if it's just questions or we want to certainly want to work with everybody and or at least be a resource for folks to make sure they're making quality business decisions for sure.
Great, great. Well, thank you so much, Travis, for coming on the show and sharing your valuable insights and expertise with us today.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it.
Great, great. And for our listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in. You are the reason we make these conversations happen. If you found value in today's episode, and I'm quite confident you did, then please do subscribe to the Lawyer Millionaire Podcast. Remember, your feedback matters to us. So take a moment and leave us a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts or questions about today's conversation and even suggestions for future topics. The journey to prosperity may be complex, but remember, you're not alone. To learn more about strategic financial planning for law firm owners, whether it's meeting your personal financial goals, business growth, or preparing for the unexpected, visit our website, thelawyermillionaire.com. Once again, I'm Darren Wurz, your host, and until next time, remember, your future is worth it. Thank you for listening, and take care.